All right, so we just got through taking chapter 22, section 1 quiz. I'm going to start on chapter 22, section 2, the overall idea and the thoughts of the Enlightenment. So if you guys remember, a couple of years ago, we did a deal at the beginning of the school year, and all of y'all had to make social contracts. Y'all remember that? Where you had the sheet of paper, each class had to do it. Surely you did it at the junior high or high school, both, even if it was over a couple years ago. But I remember having social contracts hung at the front of the classroom. You remember that? Okay. Who was the originator? Who came up with the ideas of what should have been in the social contract? Y'all did, right? So y'all voted. You said, hey, you know, this is something that's important to have a safe classroom. This is how we're going to behave, not only in the classroom about classroom rules, but also about how to each other. Okay, what's important to be able to make it, something that is a functioning classroom that's in there. Okay, and then from there, a bunch of teachers did it different ways. Like ours, I remember writing down, like kids would come up to the front, they'd write down 5 or 6 things overall. If somebody had what their idea was also, then they would put checks beside them. We counted the number of checks that went on in there. We ranked them from 1 to 7. If it made the board, it made the board. And then that was your social contract. What's the binding part of a contract? What's so important about a contract with anything? Cell phone agreement. You sign it, okay? And by signing it, it's what? You kind of take ownership of it, right? When you sign it, I mean, it's a binding agreement to kind of go, yes, sir, to kind of go in there for, what you're supposed to do, what you're going to do. Remember, they had a deal where it was like, if you said a negative thing to someone, then you had to do what? You remember that? If you said a negative thing to someone, you had to come back with 3 positives that they went back in, over and over on that. So there are certain things for what you had to do based upon, the contract that you did sign, the contract that you came up with. That social contract part goes all the way back to the Enlightenment. Hobbes comes up with an idea of a social contract. It says social contract, or social, refers to people's behavior in a relationship. So the social contract is an agreement on how people should behave to one another. And it sounds silly. All the way back then, they're having a conversation about how people should react to one another, how people should act toward another. And then you fast forward from the 1600s all the way to 2020, and what conversation are we having? How people should act toward one another, how people should react toward one another. You go through the exact same deal, and it just continues on. Okay. So it says the Enlightenment in Europe. A new way of thinking arose in other areas. In the intellectual movement called the Enlightenment, thinkers tried to apply reason and scientific method to law. So everything was about scientific method yesterday. Okay. Could you use the scientific method on society, on people?
Yeah.
Okay. How would you do that? So like if I wanted to know how humans would react to something, yeah, you come up with a hypothesis, you test it on a group of people, you take a survey of a group of people, you collect your data, you analyze your data, and you say, hey, if we do this, this is how they're going to react.
Like the COVID shot.
Pretty much. If we do this, this is how they're going to react. Okay. So you come up with options of how the humans are going to react to a social experiment, and then you choose one way or the other based upon that option. Okay. Do we do that at school? Just did. Okay. Just happened on Monday with school board vote.
Oh yeah, we're in business studies doing this thing where we had to vote for what the most useful thing is.
Mm-hmm.
It was going on Twitter or whatever. most helpful thing that we use.
Here or
Like
just
a-
in life?
Just in life, like as a.
I gotcha.
Yeah, the bracket, we had to make a bracket.
No, so you're doing a March Madness challenge on
Yeah.
the most useful. Yeah, so then you come up with 64 apps and you vote on this one to this one and see which one is the
It
champion
wasn't just apps, it was just like Snapchat.
overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's Snapchat. Google
So-
search what's in YouTube search. Yeah, so you need that.
Yeah.
Google search.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So if you sit there and you think about this, Monday, with let's say masks, there was a deal that was sent out using the scientific method. There was a hypothesis that was probably developed one way or the other that was said that there should or there shouldn't. So to collect data to find out which way it is probably going to go, there was emails that were sent out. There was an opportunity for everyone that was within the school district from elementary all the way up to 12th grade, their parents to say, this is how we feel.
I thought they didn't get a say.
That was what the survey was for. You know what I'm saying? So if you're collecting scientific data on stuff, if you're using this model based upon a society wise, okay, if 97% of the people in Stephenville would have said in that email, we don't feel safe, this is how we have to do it, then it would have been a very easy vote that was over there. You know what I'm saying? However, if it's 50-50, then it makes it a very difficult choice because it's, half and half of what to do. But it's always easier going into that idea with data to support what you have, whether it's a society norm or whether it's a scientific experiment. Having something to back what you're thinking is a big deal. All right. Somebody being reassured that what they're about to do is a positive thing. It says they shaped laws this way to be able to kind of, take advantage of human actions, of what they were going to do to prevent some bad human actions. They hoped that they would build a society founded on the ideas of the scientific revolution. Two English writers, they both had opposing views on this right here. Thomas Hobbes was the first one. He wrote that within a government, without a government, every man would be against every man. Okay. How many of you have ever heard of the term anarchy? Okay. What does anarchy mean in your opinion? You can use a simple term. If there's anarchy, it was like, okay, complete chaos. Very good. They don't want government. Overall lawlessness. Okay. If somebody says, we went in that gym and that it was complete anarchy. Okay. There was no rules. There was no regulations. There was no law. There was no order that was in there. It was just wild. Okay. So it says here that Hobbes is talking about the idea that every man against every man without a government would be anarchy. As a result, Hobbes said that people formed a social contract, an agreement in which they gave up their rights as humans. So then that way they could secure order and safety. So in the end, Hobbes believed that order and safety was better than having all of these individual rights. Okay. So we'll compare that to kind of what we go on with in America right now. How do you feel? Do you feel that you are strictly controlled by the government, or do you feel that you have rights in the United States?
I don't even know.
When you get older, you will.
We definitely have the rights.
You have a lot of rights. Okay. If you compare these to other countries, you have a ton of rights. You know what I mean? There may be some things that you really want to do that's against the law. However, that's still a right that's left over to protect the other people that, the majority of. So the other flip side of this one is John Locke. It says the best government for John Locke was that people have rights. They have rights to the life, liberty, and what are you used to hearing? To the pursuit of happiness. Good. Okay. So life, liberty, and property was what John Locke went after. Okay. It says the purpose of government is to protect the rights of the people. Okay. The people are represented by the people, so therefore they should protect the people that are there. When it fails to do so, he said, people have a right to overthrow that government, to change that government. We in a democracy have the rights to either not vote for the people that are making the laws and we get new people in there, or we have an opportunity to amend the laws of people that were there beforehand. It says a group of French thinkers have wide influence. Their 5 main beliefs are this. Number 1, thinkers can find the truth by using reason. Okay, not being so hard-headed that just whatever they think is the answer. They're actually going to use some common sense, like we go back in there with John Locke's idea in the book Common Sense, Thomas Paine later on. It says thinkers can find the truth by using reason. What is the natural, good, and reasonable idea? Human actions are shaped by natural law. So there's a reason why they do what we do. Acting according to the nature can bring happiness. By taking a scientific view, people in society can make progress. They can even advance and in the end have a better life. Okay. By using reason, people can gain freedom. So you can gain freedoms, you can gain rights, you can gain ideas if you use your brain rather than just listening to solely what one person tells you to do, or if you are able to continue on a positive trend through there. It says 3 French thinkers had great influence. Okay, Voltaire wrote against intolerance and criticized the laws and customs of France. Montesquieu made a long study of laws in the government. He thought the government power should be separated into different branches. Do we have different branches in the United States? Yes. What are they? Legislative, judicial, and executive. Okay, and they all balance each other out. They're also all appointed by people that we appoint, or they are elected by us. So the people essentially elect the people who elect and are fit into the judicial side, that elect the president, that are the governing body to us. So again, the people have the big say in who does that. It says each should be able to check the other branch to prevent them from abusing the power or having too much power. Rousseau wrote strongly in favor of human freedom. He wanted a society in which all people were equal. The Italian Beccari wrote about crime and justice. Trials should be fair, he said, and punishment should be made to fit the crime. Many of these Enlightenment ideas are what we know as our Bill of Rights. Many of these Enlightenment ideas are what's in our Constitution. They're what end up leading to what's going to be the American Revolution. All of this stems from the idea of the Enlightenment. So that's a big domino that falls into the United States becoming the United States. All right. It says many Enlightenment thinkers held traditional views about women's place in society. They urged equal rights for all men, but ignored the fact that women did not enjoy the same rights. Some women protested this unfairness. If all men are born free, wrote one, how is it that all women are born slaves? So the distinction between men being able to have a say, being able to have certain rights, being able to vote, but then you have women along with the equalness of slaves. There's not the equality of a free woman the same way that there's the equality of a free man. Right? So even as this progression starts to happen in the 1600s, going into the late 1700s, women are still dragging behind with their overall rights. Okay, they haven't necessarily got those in the books yet, but this will be the beginning that will start to kind of progress into what we'll get into the United States way later down the line, to be able to have women's rights. It says the Enlightenment ideas had strong influence on the American and French revolutions, which came at the end of the 1700s. They had 3 other effects. They helped people spread the idea of progress, man becoming better. Again, building off the Renaissance, flowing into the Enlightenment, continue to progress and making man's life better, not ever returning to the Dark Ages type deal. All right. It says by using reason, people thought it is possible to make society better. These ideas also help make Western society more secular, that is, more worldly and less spiritual. So as people left Europe to escape religious persecution, to have freedoms, to have rights, the idea of separating from what would be like, the Holy Roman Empire, the holy idea of the Roman Catholic Church, the church telling everyone what is right and what is wrong. They wanted to get into a secular view to where they were separating so much religion from law. You can still have religion, but you need to separate religion from law. And that's kind of where we get the term separation of church and state. Okay, that's something similar, common, that we should be able to understand through there. Finally, the Enlightenment ideas promoted the notion that the individual person was very important. All right. So you take some of these Enlightenment ideas. What are some things that we still struggle with today that the Enlightenment was trying to fix, that may be the same issues that we have to kind of deal with today, and especially right now? Give me 3 things that we struggle with in society today that the Enlightenment still had struggled with back then. Okay, so the overall idea of diseases was one. Let's talk about the human aspect of it, though. Society. Yesterday was the more scientific idea of it. Today would be about society. So one of the big ones we just got to talking about was women's rights. Is women's rights still an issue?
No.
Yes. Still be an issue. Okay. The idea of overall word of equality. All right. Equal pay. Now, is it 1,000 times better? Yes, it is. Okay. Is it down here and up here? No. Okay. It's a lot closer, but it's still off balance. I mean, honestly, it probably will always be off balance. But there's one example. All right, what else? What else? Okay. Separation of church and state is still a big deal. All right. It seems like now, honestly, it would even be possible the other way, to where some would question if there's too much of a separation of the founding ideas of church and state, and kind of having a good balance as compared to just completely eradicating what it is. That'd be good. Okay. What about the way we treat each other? Is that still a topic? Yes, most definitely. Okay. The ad council, I was seeing that one the other day. And in whatever way you agree and however it is, in the end, you still have to and need to, for the sake of living a good life, treat other humans with respect and dignity, whether you agree or disagree or whatever it is. At the end of the day, we're all still humans. You know what I mean? All still neighbors, all still what you are. So you're all still in the same boat, going on to the same path of life. So the equality, treating of other humans, the idea of the social contract, that's still a struggle in normal everyday life. Okay, give me one more. Okay, racism would be one. And that's kind of the same part. And that pops back and forth of whenever it's a hot topic or not a hot topic. The same thing of, canceling culture is a big word today. It's a big deal with us. From the historical standpoint, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you still need to understand in history to figure out how you got to that point. So then that way you don't repeat yourself with that history. If you just knock out that part of history, then nobody ever knows why we got to the other parts and how we got to the other parts and how not to do it. You know what I mean? So even bad history is still history. You may not like what it is, but it's still history. So that's another big issue that's there. If you would, and again, you can use your MyHRW on this one because it is a multiple choice kind of thing that goes on. Chapter 22, section 2 on Canvas. Go ahead and knock out that 7-8 question quiz that's on there. That way you don't have to mess with it on Monday, and we'll roll right into chapter 22, section 3. Okay. Nobody else has got any questions on anything. That's going to be all for today. So take your chapter 22, section 1 quiz, which you've already done in class. Go ahead and take chapter 22, section 2 quiz, which will be new, and you'll be good to go.